Good morning, September 13th, Sunday. Thanks for joining me for this lesson, this sermon, this message, this conversation. Took my kids and went with some friends, distanced on the White River yesterday. We kayaked and canoed down the river. The water was pretty low and it wasn't very fast, but it was peaceful. And the sun came in and out of the clouds, and the trees draped over the river. And it was a very nice time. We passed through people's backyards. We passed through people's land, farmers' fields, private property, and yet the river is a right of way in Indiana that you can pass, and it isn't trespassing. You can stop on the bank, and you can camp, and you can have a fire, you can cook food. Our text this morning is Matthew chapter 8. Why don't you turn there in your Bible? Just 3 verses, Matthew chapter 8, verses 18 through 20. I'm going to read that. Now, when Jesus saw a crowd around him, he gave orders to depart to the other side of the sea. Then a scribe came and said to him, "Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go." Jesus said to him, "The foxes have holes, and the birds of the air nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head." Jesus said it like this. He said, foxes, holes, birds of the air, nests, but the Son of Man, nowhere to lay his head. In this, we can say that Jesus was homeless. The circumstances of his life in the first century, plus the addition of him viewing his mission to walk out of oppression, which meant walking into Jerusalem at the wrong time, left him homeless. And he's telling people that want to follow him, there's a homeless aspect. And I don't want to overlook the fact that he was poor, and that he had been run out of his family town, which in that time you lived in the same neighborhood your whole life. So if you were run out of your family town, the town where your family is, you had options to live out in the wilderness. You could go with other family members in other towns. But Jesus came to depend upon the people that he taught to supply his needs. And I don't want to overlook that the circumstances of his life led to his homelessness. There is an aspect where he chose the difficult path and the vocation of his life, which meant there would be traveling. But he's both poor and homeless and traveling for a purpose. And for that area, and some areas even today, travelers, people on the move, there wasn't this concept of private property and trespassing. It was that people have the right of way on land to go from one place to another. You couldn't stay or build things, but you could travel through land. And so in this text, we have 2 ideas. One is the homelessness of Jesus, and the other is discipleship involves a type of traveling where we leave some of the good things and some of the encumbrances. Is that the right word? Encumbrances. Oh, I'm not editing this, so there you go. The things that encumber us. We leave some of those things, both good things and those things that encumber, in order to travel for ministry. When I say travel, I don't necessarily mean physically travel. What I do mean is to cross spaces, to cross barriers, and to move into places where the pain of the world is in need of disciples of Jesus Christ. And that is going to cost us something. That is going to cost us some good things at home, some of the comforts, I mean, of home. And we will have to endure some difficulties in order to meet the pain of the world with the mercy of Christ. This text, it speaks to homelessness, and it speaks to traveling without trespassing. Or should it involve trespassing? We pay the price. My friend Andrew, he and his family, they spent a year in Scotland, and this is a place that still has those types of non-trespassing laws. There isn't trespassing. It has to do with a couple of things. One is their medieval spirituality. Their Christianity from a few hundred years ago is still encoded in their law there, that when in Genesis God says you can eat, or you are to eat of these green plants or these trees, or all of the trees or all the green plants are for your food, they take that to mean that the trees of my neighbor, I'm able to pick the fruit from them if I'm going hungry, because everything ultimately belongs to God, which ultimately means it belongs to everyone. And we are just stewards for a short period of time. And so ultimate ownership of property and of land, which really affects homelessness and people who are homeless tremendously. Ultimately, it belongs to God. Psalms says the earth is full of the glory of the Lord. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness therein. Meaning it's his, it's already his, and he gives it to us. And so for us to hold tightly in ways that deny good things and natural goods to our neighbor would be to not be Christian. In Indiana, last year, there were about 5,500 people who were homeless in this state, and that doesn't include all of the public school students who experience bouts of homelessness, which the numbers on that are worrisome. But in terms of adults, 5,500 adults were homeless. At first, that seems like a lot, but then you think, oh, that we only need 5,500 units in the whole state, and we could eradicate homelessness. It's harder right now for me to locate information that has accounted for coronavirus statistics, but we could roughly say that there are over 600 people in Delaware County that are homeless. And at first you think, oh my gosh, in our county, 600 people. And then you think, wait, just 600? It's only 600. Why are we not why is the church not identifying all 600 and providing 600 homes? And when I say that, I know full well the systems that are required to be in place for a project like that to work. I also know that once you locate someone in a home and services are able to reach this person consistently, repetitively, then their life gets better. And my wife's work at Habitat for Humanity is a testimony to that. Once people have a home, life gets better in every single way. Kids' grades go up as well. They earn more money. They're healthier. And they were talking about our neighbors here. We're not talking about some people far away that we never see. We're talking about our neighbors here. I know during the initial wave of the pandemic, on my street, I saw things that I hadn't seen before. Two different cars with a total of 3 people sleeping in them. I saw tents in front yards of people sleeping in those. Now, that has not continued. But why isn't the church addressing this? In the United States, we have national parks. And if you go to a national park, you can see let's just take, for instance, the Grand Canyon or Yellowstone or the different mountains, Pikes Peak in Colorado, the swamps in Florida. I mean, these natural wonders of the world. Typically, in the history of the world, it's only the wealthy or the upper class, the elite class, that has access to those lands. They own them and they view them and they see them. But other people are not permitted on them. Well, in the United States, one of the great things about the national parks is that they are open to everyone for a tiny fee just to maintain parks and to give some ownership for people traveling in. They're open to everyone regardless of class. The wonders of the United States are open to everyone regardless, the natural wonders, regardless of class or race or economic status. I'm so thankful for that. There is a part of that. I mean, what we're talking about there with the national parks, that's like Jesus. To do something, a good gift, something that's beautiful, something that's invigorating, something that's life-changing, as seeing the Grand Canyon or walking through Yellowstone. Those things given to everybody are like saying the fruit of the trees, all of it, are for you to eat. And that you is plural. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. And our national parks, they represent that. I'm thankful for that. So the notion of homelessness of Jesus, and that we must travel barriers to be disciples. We must travel distance. We must do difficult things because of our calling to be disciples. What then is our mission? And I want to speak to both Avondale and Kamak in this. Both congregations. What is our mission? I wonder if we could address homelessness in Delaware County. What if we made that our task? What if, like we asked the question a few weeks ago, what are we going to do with our stuff, our time, our possessions, our money? What are we going to do with our stuff before it's taken out of our hands? What are we going to do with our stuff, our energy, before our choice is gone? Wouldn't it be wonderful to stand before God and say, I spent the rest of my life, I spent myself on providing shelter for my neighbors who are homeless, regardless of how they became homeless. And Jesus would say, good and faithful servant, enter into your rest. Meaning it wasn't restful to do that. It wasn't easy to do that with the rest of your days. And so now enter into my rest. We spent the first half of the year talking about change. And now we're going to talk about action steps for the second half of the year. Action steps to getting us on mission. And so for Kamak, I'm asking you, would you be willing to adopt that as the mission of our congregation? Would you be willing to come visit people in Avondale? Would you be willing to spend yourselves on eradicating homelessness in Delaware County? And I'm asking Avondale, would you permit Kamak to visit you, to know you? Would you teach them? Would you educate them on the difficulties of class and economics and racism and homelessness and addiction? Would you give of yourself in that way? And the two, could they become a beautiful assisting of one another? And so what is our mission? What will we travel? And what will we do when we recognize that Jesus himself was homeless? Foxes have holes, and the birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. God bless you.